Hit the like and subscribe for more dirt bike stuff.
Granny shifting, not double clutching like you should.
Just keep in mind, this is how I would break them down. I'm not like Whiskey Throttle Media or Swap Moto Live, Motocross Action, or Dirt Bike Magazine. So I don't get to ride them all back to back, same year, all stock. It's took me 8 years to gather the information to be able to talk about it. So this is how I rank them. For context, it was like a 16 Suzuki that I rode that was bone stock, nothing done to it. A 17 Cowie that I rode that had every bell and whistle known to man on it. Pro Circuit titanium exhaust, Pro Circuit triple clamps, Pro Circuit suspension. So it was like a built bike. And then I rode my uncle's newer, I think it was like a 2019, maybe a 2020 KTM. I'm not sure if his was a 350 or a 450 though. It might have been a 350. And then the only two that I rode back to back were the newer CRF 450, John's bike, and then I think that was a 22 CRF 450, and I rode this kid Zane, his 23 Yamaha YZ 450. Zane's bike has a pipe on it, probably different bars, not really positive. No, it had a pipe on it though, and then he was saying that it had been remapped. So I didn't ride like all the same year bikes back to back or anything, but it's just like my experience riding those bikes and what I remember about it. So in 5th place, I'd have to go with the Yamaha, and there could be a bunch of factors that lead to me putting that bike in 5th place. Like, for one, my knee was blown out, so I couldn't really ride the bike that well. 2, he had just got a new FMF exhaust, full exhaust system for it, and we were out tooling around out in the hills messing around, and he pulls up next to me and his pipe is like glowing red, and I'm like, "Hey Proby, your bike's running lean." And he proceeded to tell me that it's not running lean because he had his bike remapped. And so I asked him, "Well, did you have it remapped before or after you got the exhaust?" And he said he had it remapped before he got the exhaust. So I'm thinking to myself, well, that bike's running lean. And so whenever I got on it, I was already questioning it. And I didn't really ride it much. I did maybe one good long straightaway where you just like rip through all the gears, and then did like one little lap on this little like turnstile track that we have out there, and I just wasn't really feeling it. It felt like the bike sat too flat for me, and it just wasn't set up for me. So that's probably why I'm putting it in 5th place. Plus, it didn't have like it was almost like it didn't have any back pressure, because you would like rev it out, and then when I would let off the throttle, it would just freewheel like crazy, like there was no decompression braking. Plus the pipe was like bright red, and when I revved the bike out, it was like there was no resistance. When you would snap the throttle, it would just go all the way to the top, like there was no resistance. I'm pretty sure it was lean, but I didn't want to like argue with him or anything like that, so I just took it for what it was. And so that I wasn't too stoked on that bike, but that's like the only one that I have to reference. So that's my experience that I'm going with, obviously. And 4th, I'd have to go with the Honda, and I was ripping around on John's bike. I want to say it was a 22 CRF 450. And then so I know that was set up for John, and I wasn't really like a huge fan of the way it was set up. It just, to me, like the rider triangle, like from the seat to the foot pegs to the handlebars, like how you sat on the bike, it almost felt like it was too open for me, which kind of makes sense because I'm pretty sure John's a little taller than I am. But it felt like it was almost too square. For me, I think I would have liked the bars back a little more. Maybe not as tall of a seat. But motor-wise, his motor was nice because it kind of, to me, it felt like a tractor, like an XR600 or something. It honestly felt slow, but you know it's not slow, but it just felt like it revved slow, almost like it was just like it was a tractor almost. And I really liked the motor. The motor was awesome, I thought. I think I would have just set the bike up a little differently for me, obviously, because everybody's going to have their own setup preferences. I was stoked on it. And third, I'd have to go with my uncle's bike, the KTM. I'm not sure if it's a 350 or a 450. I want to say his bike's a 350, but I could be wrong. It could be a 450. Probably like a 2019, maybe 2020. And to me, like when I got on it, that bike felt the most comfortable, and that's probably because I was born and raised on KTM's. Like pretty much every big bike I've ever had besides my KX250 that I have now has been KTM's. So you get on it and it just, to me, it felt like being at home. I think you maybe had the suspension done, it's got a pipe on it, whatever, but it felt slow. But that could be just because I think it had 100 less cc's, but like I said, I'm not positive if it's a 350 or a 450. But like nothing felt set up goofy. It felt real neutral. I felt like it was set up good, and it handled good. The brakes, I mean, you can't beat KTM brakes. Suspension worked well, turned good. Can't beat a KTM transmission. KTM's just shift the best, clutch feels the best on them. But I think it, like I said, I think it was a 350, so that's probably why it felt like it was almost slow to me. I mean, not slow, obviously, but you gotta keep it revved out. You gotta keep it up in the RPMs, which the older I get, the less inclined I am to keep the bike revved out like that. Almost, with older age, I would almost rather have more torque than revs or RPMs. So third, I'd have to go KTM. And second, I'd have to go with the Cowie. The Cowie was just set up sick with all that pro circuit stuff, pro circuit pipe, triple clamps, linkage, suspension. Plus Pro Circuit just builds the best Cowies. And then I rode that bike on a motocross track. Plus I also rode it out in the hills after I fixed the fuel pump for Richard, because he kept it parked for 8 years with gas in it, like a knucklehead. But on the motocross track at Porterville, that bike like handled perfect. It was fast, it was light, it was very stable. It's a very stable bike. Like no head shaking, it feels long. It almost felt suspension felt kinda soft, but like firm enough. But it does have the air forks on it, and I've never been a fan of air forks. Every set of air forks I've ever ridden, none of them feel right. And those are set up air forks. Like Pro Circuit did whatever to them, so they're set up. But air forks don't have the plushness. To me, I want it to be plush till I get down to like 3/4 of the way through the stroke, and then from 3/4 down the rest of the way I want it to start stiffening up. But the air forks, for whatever reason, just they feel spiky, like almost like they don't move. So I wasn't really a huge fan of that. But then I got to ride it out in the foothills after I fixed the fuel pump on it, and like I said, that bike's fast. Plus I was riding on old tires though too, but shifted pretty good, clutch felt good, throttle pull, everything. So out of all the 450s motocross bikes I've ridden, I'd have to put the Cowie second. I'd probably have to go with the Suzuki in first. What's funny though too is the Suzuki I rode, this guy Dan Vertiza's Suzuki, out of all the newer 450 motocross bikes I've ridden, Vertiza's was the only one that was bone stock. Stock bars, stock pipe, or stock exhaust, stock suspension, stock. And out of all of them, that was the best handling, the most usable power, didn't do anything funny, just ran good, was super predictable, and nothing turns like a Suzuki. The Suzukis always turn really good. I don't know what it is that they do to them to make them turn so good. What I think it really comes down to is Suzuki's like always behind the 8 ball, like they haven't updated their bike in 10 years or whatever, because they just stick with it. They get it to where it's good, and then they just run that setup like the bike's good. Might give up a little bit on the power, might give up a little bit on the suspension, whatever. The bike's so good that it doesn't even need any of that. I just remember I was riding it at Taft, and a lot of it could have been the conditions because it was a rainy day in Taft, so there was good traction all over the place. There's a big step up, like either third gear pinned out on my 252 stroke or fourth gear like on it, and I would always have to go to the outside, and you come over this roller and then down this long straightaway and up over this hill jump, big step up, 100 feet probably, maybe a little farther, I don't know. And I'd have to go to the outside on my 250 and just pin it as hard as I could to get over that thing. And then I went out there on Vertiza's bike, and I remember I went to the inside, came over the roller, and just sat down on the first lap and just seat bounced that thing like it was nothing. It was crazy how good that bike turns, even like for being a bone stock bike. It turned so good, and it was like so predictable. I'm guessing that's why Suzuki hasn't updated it in 10 years and why Roxon's still able to get on one and go out and win supercross races. It's because the bike is so good straight off the showroom floor that they don't need all these bells and whistles to be able to go out and win races. When the bike's so good to start, you're not trying to make up ground.